So guys, welcome back and sorry for the delay. Had a bit of an infection followed by international man flu, much worse than UK man flu. But anyway, back to part 2 of test playing my Chinese Nationalist army against the Imperial Japanese army. So let's get straight down to it. So we're going to join the game in round 3. The Japanese continue their advance on both flanks and we're going to get straight down into the action. So here we are in turn 3. On the left Japanese flank, they attempt to do the railway crossing, counted as difficult going, so the Chinese play a +1 bogged in due to heavy rain. This causes one of the tankettes to bog in, however the other two manage to navigate across and start pushing towards the village itself. On the right flank, the Japanese 20mm anti-tank guns are taking the toll. That's the second bailed out armoured car. These are working extremely well, and given the light arm of the anti-tank, armoured cars, they're punching through them quite quickly, down to 50%, and no losses for the Japanese at this stage. One of the problems is they're now quite heavily exposed as they push towards the infantry positions. The Japanese are starting to take some indirect fire support on that right flank, and that's going to be interesting how that pans out. However, the morale being fanatical hopefully shouldn't be too much of a problem. Meanwhile, the Chinese got some problems of their own. The central engineer platoon now pinned down from enemy fire. Back on the Chinese right flank, their heavy guns start to come into play. And you can see here from the observation post in the church, they've got excellent fields of fire. Supported by the US advisors, that fire is coming down quite accurate onto the Japanese position, and that's the first casualties off the game. One Japanese unit destroyed. They're now ranged in and pinned down. This could prove quite challenging for them if the armoured cars manage to recover from the bailed out in turn 4. They're in the open and very vulnerable. So all to play for as we restart the game. We rejoined the game in round 4. The Japanese have set up their immediate battalion support guns just on the edge of the village. Meanwhile, the light tanks are pushing into the village, supported by the lead infantry platoon. However, one of the tankettes needs to roll, hit a booby trap. Further over in the centre, the battalion commander with the flag pushes forward along with this platoon across the river as they prepare to assault into the Chinese defensive engineer position. Meanwhile, over on the right flank, the Japanese have played a native guide card. This allows them to do a double move without any penalties. In addition to that, they've pushed forward a human shield of the villagers, which are pushing up in front of the armoured cars. Further over to secure the hard right flank, the mortar platoon is very fortunate with a smoke task, and they've smoked off the remaining armoured car which could have interfered with the assault that's taking place here, screened off by the villagers. However, it's not all going the Japanese way. As they prepare to push into the village, they're bounced by a Chinese ambush, and we'll wait to see how that plays out. The Chinese are well dug in, even though the buildings are only wooden frame. They are going to give him that element of surprise and a first engagement in addition to the booby trap. So, you know, it's not all going the Japanese way, and all to play for as we move through the halfway point of round 4. So the Japanese assault on the right flank is going extremely well. They get two of the Nick Hyuhach assault tank teams in onto the armoured cars. These are being screened off by civilians being pushed forward by the remainder of the platoon. The two tank assaults go in and both of the armour cars are destroyed. The fourth armour car is still screened off, and the other one fails to remount from its bailout, so it's looking very, very precarious out on that flank for the Chinese. That said, they managed to pass the morale on the surviving vehicle, and it's holding the screen as they try and push forward some more infantry. But it is not looking good on that flank, and they're going to have to push forward their infantry. Meanwhile, on the Japanese left flank, they got hit with a booby trap. They fail and the tanker is destroyed. At the same time, the Chinese launched the ambush from the... The Chinese unleashed their ambush at close range with a mixture of rifle, MG and single rifle teams. Unfortunately, despite getting some good hits, the Japanese managed to save all the stands, so it's going to be extremely interesting as we get ready for round 5 and the Japanese prepare to assault into the village, given the fanatical fever. So it's going to be very difficult for the Chinese. Can they hold on? Let's see when we come to turn 5. The Japanese play event card 4, which is their air attack. That's 3 Vals supported by 2 Japanese Zeros. The target is the Chinese dug-in heavy artillery battery, which is wreaking havoc onto the Japanese right flank. However, Japanese not getting it all their own way. A cap from the Flying Tigers, P-40 Warhawks, has intercepted, and we got an aerial combat ongoing at the minute. So let's going to see how that plays out. So turn 4 sees event card 4 being played, and this is a aerial assault by 3 Japanese Vals, supported with air cover by 2 Zeros. They have now been intercepted by 3 P-40 Warhawks from the Flying Tigers, and we're using very simple aerial combat rules from www.juniorgeneral.org, which are basic World War II fast combat rules. Very simple, very effective, and they allow you to play at some air interdiction, as well as fighter escort and interceptor capability. The Japanese intention is to break through the cap and then allow the dive bombers to sweep across, hopefully break through the anti-aircraft and assault the main Chinese gun line, which is wreaking havoc down onto the far bank. So thank you for watching part 2. We leave it at the end of round 4. The end of the aerial engagement has seen 1 damage hit point onto one of the Zeros, 1 damage hit point onto one of the P-40 Warhawks. So as we get into turn 5, it's all to play for, primarily in the aerial combat. We have the Japanese getting ready to assault into the village on the left flank, and on the right flank the Japanese infantry pushing through the Chinese wreckage screen onto the 1st Infantry position.